So it's been around 5 or 6 months since we heard anything about the Knights of the Old Republic remake, and the drama that Aspyr had been removed from the project has been and gone, and we legitimately have heard nothing for about a year at this point. And the complete and utter radio silence on the project has been a surprise to me personally. Whether that's from Embracer, Aspyr, Saber, I don't really understand why there have been no updates in any way, shape or form. However, with that said, we did get our first ever look at the Knights of the Old Republic remake, technically, over the last week. If you haven't been caught up, Black Series announced Darth Malak and Bastila Shan action figures, and they do look slightly different to the original KOTOR iterations. After I saw the announcement, I did reach out to my sources at Aspyr and I asked them whether or not they were based on the remake's designs, to which I was told that yes, Bastila was very similar. Star Wars officially confirmed that these were based on the designs for the remake. So even though we haven't seen the remake itself or really heard anything about it, technically we've had our first ever look at the KOTOR remake, just in the form of an action figure instead of a game. Now, I know you guys want some juicy information from me, and I'm not going to be putting everything I know about the KOTOR remake into one video, because that's just not how the YouTube game works, sadly. But I am going to be talking about some things that interest me, and things that I think you guys deserve to know. But at the end of the day, this is still technically a rumour. There's nothing official here, so it is kind of my obligation to say you should still take this with a grain of salt regardless. And additionally, this is for Aspyr's remake. I cannot speak for what Saber are doing because I don't know anything about them or whether they've changed a lot of this. It's possible, so keep that in mind. So first and foremost, I want to say that the release date for the Knights of the Old Republic remake was intended to be June 2023. This is when the game was supposed to come out from internal projections, and it was also the date given to Sony. However, for the employees working on the game, a lot of them didn't believe that this date was achievable, and many of them actually believed that 2024, maybe 2025, was a more realistic target anyway, just due to the scope of the game. Now, one thing that I hear a lot of people discussing regarding the KOTOR remake is the protagonist of Revan. And one of those more central discussions is often centered around whether or not Revan would be a voiced protagonist. Some people have said that they want Revan to be silent, like in the original game, and there are some people like myself who do want Revan to have a voice. And I have been told the answer to this question is Revan will be voiced. Now, who the voice actor for Revan is, male or female, I don't know. I'm just told that they are going to be fully voiced. And Revan is also going to be expanded upon quite significantly in terms of his flashbacks and his memories. Though I don't know to what extent they are going to do this. I would actually like to see Revan's memories playable, for example, the battle on the flagship with Bastila, maybe the Battle of Malachor 5 and whatnot, but I have been told that the flashbacks and the memories of Revan is going to have some large kind of expansion. While we're on the topic of voices, let's talk about another character that is going to be a little bit different in the KOTOR remake, and that is Darth Malak. Now, this is technically a scoop because this hasn't been revealed anywhere on the internet. But the voice actor for Darth Malak was originally Rafael Ferrer, and I have been told that he is being replaced in the KOTOR remake with another voice actor, and this is going to be Jason Spisak. If any of you guys are familiar with Arcane, he plays Silco, the main villain, he plays Lux Bonteri in the Clone Wars, and he's just an all-round, very experienced, well-known voice actor within the voice acting community. Now, why they are replacing Raphael, I'm not entirely sure. However, I have heard that Jason is a very, very good Darth Malak, and I'm really excited to hear him. Now, I did also ask about the voices for other characters, especially the characters whose actors are no longer with us, such as Canderous and Vrook, but sadly I couldn't learn anything about them, but I did learn that a lot of the original voice actors are reprising their roles, so it's not just Jennifer Hale as Bastila. So with that said, we could assume that Raphael Sabaj is back as Karth, Catherine Tabor is probably back as Mission, Kevin Michael Richardson is likely back as Jolie, etc, etc. Another thing that I think a lot of people will be excited to know too is that they were supposedly sticking very closely to the original narrative and they had no connection to the Old Republic MMO. Now this was something that I asked specifically and I was a little bit concerned about because I was worried that they were going to try and change Revan's story to fit in with how it occurs in the MMO. But from what I've been told, there is absolutely no connection to the Old Republic at all. But this also goes for Knights of the Old Republic 2 as well. Something that I would have really liked is a little bit more connective tissue between 1 and 2, such as the name dropping of maybe Aaron Kai or Kreia or Mitra Surik or Malakor and whatnot, but supposedly this isn't the case and there isn't any real connection between the two games. However, with that said, KOTOR 2 wasn't entirely being ignored, so you know, I'll leave it at that, but that is a topic for another video. Now, the next thing that I have to share is something that I think people are not going to enjoy learning about. I personally don't really understand the thought process in making these changes. I think they're silly, but it's not something that makes me angry or anything, but I do know there are going to be quite a few people that will feel a little bit of disdain towards Aspyr for doing this. So, supposedly, Disney were very vocal about necessary changes to the game's writing that reflects the modern day. And I know what this translates to a lot of you: political correctness. Supposedly, some of the dialogue in the game was changed to inherently ensure that it wasn't as problematic. And honestly, when I got told one of the clear examples of this political correctness change, I literally just laughed, like I almost cackled, because it was so ridiculous what they considered to be problematic writing. And when I stream this game and I play this game in the future, I will point out exactly the bit of dialogue that I was shown and we can laugh together because it is absurd. But that isn't the thing that's going to upset the most of you. The thing that will upset the most of you is going to be the race and gender swapping. Now, several months ago, there was another leak that went around on Reddit where it said that Sol Karath and Calo Nord had been race and gender swapped. Calo Nord was going to be a white woman and Sol Karath was going to be a black woman. I did go on to ask whether or not this was true, and I was told that it was true to an extent, as it was something in the design documents or the design drafts from very early on in development, but I basically got confirmation a little bit more recently that this wasn't going to change back to the original, and these two changes were going to be made. I was also told that there have been other characters that were gender flipped, so more side characters and NPCs and stuff like that, which I don't have a problem with, but I just don't understand why they would change the races and the genders of some of the more central characters. It doesn't serve any real purpose. I totally get wanting to have more women in the game, more people of colour in the game, more representation in the game. But why do you need to change characters to do that? Given the scope and the scale of the KOTOR remake, it would have been a really good opportunity to just add new characters or expand upon what was already there, which is, in my opinion, a more logical thing to do if it was such an important focal point for Disney and Lucasfilm, because it would have added more necessary representation in that regard, while not inciting any clear anger from fans who didn't want these characters to be changed. But alas, like I said, it doesn't really bother me, but I do think it's a silly choice that no doubt will have some backlash. Now, with all of this said, I have to ask you, what is your opinion on all of this stuff that I have shared? I already know that a lot of you are going to be very upset at Sol Karath and Calo Nord changes, but I do think there's going to be some of you that are happy that Revan's being voiced over and there's no connection to the Old Republic and whatnot. So, this is kind of a bittersweet video for some of you, so let me know what you think in the comment section below. Anyway, like I said, I do have some more information that I do want to share, and I intend to do that in a future video. And I know this is a very typical YouTuber thing to do, but I'm going to tell you that if you want to keep up with everything I know about the KOTOR remake, perhaps consider subscribing to join the biggest growing Knights of the Old Republic community on YouTube. I'll see you guys in the next video. But until then, may the Force be with you. Always.